This is the Wealth Standard Podcast, the gold standard in all things financial.
Hey everyone, this is Patrick Donohoe. We are on episode 205.
205 already.
Of the Wealth Standard Podcast. Wow.
You seem so relaxed.
205.
You seem so relaxed. Where you been? You been on a beach chilling out somewhere?
I've been in the heartland. I've been in the heartland of America.
Oh, yes.
The heartland. So I was in Indianapolis for a few days.
Oh, nice. What were you doing there?
Just visiting. There's a conference that's put on by one of the providers of some of the stuff that we do, and they do a yearly thing. It was really cool.
Yeah.
You know, they put a lot into it. I remember the first year they did was about 5 years ago, and there was hardly anybody there, and there was actually someone that fainted. Like they were nervous.
Really?
They were nervous to speak in front of people, and they almost fainted on this little podium in this tiny conference room. But no, it's they've done a really good job. I mean, we had some cool speakers that were there. There was over 70 people in the different aspects. I don't want to get into those details, but it was really good.
It was
really
inspiring and uplifting,
yeah.
and you came back home.
Yeah. But
those things are the Wealth Standard, feeling great.
Those things are always dangerous though, because it's kind of like you get outside of the office, right? And
sure.
You don't have kind of the pressing issues at hand.
You get all these new ideas coming at you.
That's the thing. It's like you get these ideas and you get, wow, this thing and that thing, and sooner or later people should look at my Evernote. I have so many Evernote, man, it's insane. It's like 4,000 notes or
it's
something.
It's a spook
like that.
alley. No, I've looked at it. You and I are linked on the Evernote, and it's a spook alley.
I have a problem with Evernote in a good and bad way, I guess. But anyway, I would say today, as I'm kind of getting back into the groove, I decided to kind of go and talk about some topics we've talked about before.
Yeah.
But I look at them a little bit differently because I see tremendous opportunity, but I also see just a huge pitfall that people will, if they don't realize and understand, they're destined to fall in.
Well, you sent me through Evernote.
Yep.
I have it right here.
Yep.
You sent me through Evernote your notes and said, hey, let's talk about this for episode 205.
You were like, oh.
I'm like, dude, every episode, the sky is falling every single episode of the Wealth Standard. And you went, no, it's not. No, it isn't. Here's why. Yeah. Because there's all this incredible opportunity. Yep. What may look like actual, like kind of ominous or yicky news.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I just said yicky. Is actually
where'd that come from?
It's I don't even know. It's been a week, Pat. So but there's a lot of opportunity here.
Yeah.
There's a silver lining to all this, and that's why we're talking about all this, right?
For sure.
Okay.
So we'll get into it. Let's get first we want to still kind of push people. If you guys can give us reviews, that would be amazing.
Yeah, please do.
Right, we're trying to push up in rankings, get the word out.
It means an awful lot to us to have your reviews come in because it does a couple of things. A, it makes us more popular, which we want, and B, it helps us craft a better show for you within the financial space. Are you bumping the microphone with your chin? Are you actually hitting the microphone?
I don't know.
You are way too relaxed to do this show.
It smells good.
So does it really?
Yeah, it smells good.
It's Lieb Montoya right there.
Probably is.
You're smelling essence of Lieb.
Lieb and his wonderful breath.
Lieb's musk. So So anyway, leave us a review on iTunes, will you? We want it. We want the feedback so we can make a better show for you.
Awesome.
So please do.
And we have a limited number of Cash Flow Wealth Summit T-shirts.
Yeah, and they're a hot item.
I think there's just a couple because most of them have been pledged from those that won prizes and participated in the summit. But if you did, and you have not been pledged a T-shirt, then I think we have a 10 or so. But if you leave us a review, take a snapshot, shoot it over,
we'll throw you a T-shirt.
Yes, we will.
And some other goodies from Paradigm Life and the Wealth Standard.
Cool. All right, so let's get into it. I mean, I look at the two topics, and really even from getting into some of the topics at this event that I went to. Yeah. That I see as just a huge, massive, ominous. I mean, whatever word you want to use to describe it, it's a huge issue, and so it's old people, right? And what's going on there, and some of the directives based on
now, when you
benefits,
say old people,
older.
Because I know you're a young man, but when you say older, do you mean like baby boomers? Because they're getting up there. They're 65 to 75.
Yeah, and I think it's a present, but it's also a future issue. So I would say those that are in their elder years that shift from being independent to dependent. And in that, in that process.
So that could be, geez, that could almost be anything. I would say like 55 plus, right? Even though people in their 50s are staying much younger. 50 is the new 30.
They are, yeah. I mean, life expectancies right now, could eventually creep into 90s, mid 90s.
Oh yeah.
So I'm more talking about again, it's a future issue. I think because of the longevity risks that exist. So I think that's one thing, and I would say that it's not necessarily those that are in that age bracket that should be concerned. It's those that will be responsible for their care.
It's us. It's you and I that are going to be responsible for that. So
it's that, and it's also it's still the college thing, the college idea.
So you've got two kind of demographic-based financial issues on each end of the spectrum.
Yep. And I think it all boils down to just the nonsensical realm that they're in, which still we've talked about it ad nauseum on multiple shows in the past. But if you look at it, people are still just adamant about what they should be doing right with their life and what their kids should be doing and what the definition of success is. And this is what I would say is the world is shifting so fast. Like our opinions, our perspective, the neural pathways that have been created as to how things should be are so disrupted right now. But yet, because of that, just the nature of habit, we're just so dug into the way things should be. And I would say I'm a part of it. You're probably a part of it too. Everyone is.
I'm way worse than you are at it.
Because I still, this is in full. I mean, we've talked here about kids and education, teaching your kids. My kids are still in school, and I was out of town this week, and school started, and my wife was commenting to me about her some of the initial meetings they have, like school night where you meet the teachers,
back to school night, right?
And it's just like some of the stuff is just like, man, what the fuck am I paying for, right? It's kind of like high level babysitting, right? And I would say, I mean, we can go down that track. I don't want to do that.
Can I ask you a question? It's kind of a personal question.
Do I have a choice at this point?
No, it's too late. Are your kids in public or private school?
Yeah, they're public.
Public school. Yeah. Good. I'm a proponent of public school. I think that's a good thing. But it is kind of it is a little scary. I think ultimately it's a good thing. But you have I know exactly what you're going through, because about the time my kid hit second grade, I was like, what is happening here?
Yeah, I can go off on that. I mean, we've talked about that in the past, but it's one of those things where you have to define what education is. You have to find its role. You have to define the upbringing of a child. I mean, getting into all of that, I think things have changed so much that the idea or the relevance of public education is becoming less and less. But it's one of those things that's always been done. It's a sacred cow. And again, if the writing's on the wall. I mean, there's so many issues, whether it's the budgets associated with education, they keep going up, and teacher salaries keep going up. The effectiveness of the education keeps going down. And really, I would argue that it's
in a traditional sense,
Yeah, and I think it's worse than it is, because looking at the access of information that is available outside of the education system, right? What impact does that have on kids' learning? Huge. What percentage? I would say the coordination is important as far as a teacher is concerned. But anyway, I don't want to go off on that tangent.
My kid, who you know very, very well, who is a huge fan of yours, might I add, he even started doing CrossFit because of you. He was graduated from high school early, a year and a half early, graduated from high school, because he said, I'm not learning anything. I learn more in an hour of Discovery Channel or 10 minutes of YouTube than I learned in an entire term at school.
Yeah, so here's the issue. The issue is it's such a sacred cow. People are going to keep doing it. It's never going to change unless there's massive disruption. Case proven. That's okay. It's not going to be this like we're going to wean off education and maybe we'll cut here and cut. No, it's never going to happen.
Somebody's going to have to eventually.
Yeah, it's going to be massively disruptive, right? And I think right now the major issue isn't necessarily the K through 12. It's more of it's the college.
It's college,
right? And I think we've talked about this before, and it's still a massive problem. I mean, I remember doing the podcast where student loans crossed $1 trillion.
Yeah.
Now it's $1.5 trillion. Like $500 million more. And that is just a monstrous
And that's another
amount.
one of those things, like we were talking about Social Security in the last podcast. This is another one of those things that nobody really wants to. If you're a student, or if you've been, it took me a decade, man, to pay off my student loans. That's not uncommon. And imagine where it's going to be a couple of years from now, as more that bubble is getting bigger and bigger and bigger.
Yeah, for sure. And here's the issue is that the reason why it's an issue is twofold. Number one, it's the parents that are paying for tuition.
Right.
It is, probably up, depending on how they go about doing it, is anywhere from $100, $200 plus $1,000 that they're carving away from their savings, from their well-being, right? Just because it's what they think they should do. It's the right thing to do. It's what they've committed to, but they wipe out so much opportunity cost associated with what they're paying for.
Yeah.
And because that money will no longer grow, it'll no longer, provide for them when they stop working, okay? Now guess what's going to happen? The kids that they paid for, right, as far as the tuition is concerned, they are the ones that are going to end up supporting their parents.
Yeah.
Right. So it's going to come back to roost. Now we'll get into some solutions in just a second, but I would say that really from a college standpoint, maybe it's a number that's going to wake people up. Maybe
You think it could be that simple?
I don't know. I don't know what the tipping point is where, not even a tipping point. It's the point at which it's like, I'm not going to pay that amount for tuition. I don't know what that level is going to be. I don't.
I think that one of the problems that we have is the student loans themselves. Stop giving student loans. If you stop giving student loans, people will stop paying for unnecessary classes. They'll start going into vocations. They'll quit worrying about dumb stuff like humanities, and they'll start focusing on what college should be, which is, how do I get a job? How do I get can I ask you as a CEO, as a business owner? I'm a business owner. You're a business owner. How much does that college degree matter to you when you're looking at a new hire?
Zero. These days it's zero, right? And I would say that it ends up being more destructive when it comes to what a child should do with their career, right? Because there are industries being created, every single day that takes a long time to really work itself into the curriculum of a university. And that's where I would say there's so many opportunities right there now that are being missed, right? Just because there's this pathway that people think is the only way to go, right? And I would say, in the end, and I'm gonna move on to the second issue, right? But I would say it's a very similar issue. But in the end, it's like all money has a cost, right? You have it could pay for a good or a service, or it can pay for another good or a service, or it can be kept in savings. So you can always measure what else that money could do. And looking at the money that goes into tuition, the idea is that it will do more for a person than what it would have done otherwise, right? Which is, it'll give my child an education, it'll give them a piece of paper, it'll give them a degree, and they'll be a better citizen. And I would say that is, rationally speaking, the trade-off. I'm giving my money to this institution because they are going to improve my child's life or give them, hope for a better future.
Doors.
And I would say that it's an investment. You're taking a risk, and I would say the investment today is one of the more risky things that you can do. I would say, of anything of that amount of money, it is the riskiest thing that you can do.
I agree.
Make that investment, because one of the things I calculated is I looked at, just briefly, and I've done these before, and we've talked about them. The salary increases, are going up, right? Salaries are going up, and right now, if you really look at the income that a college graduate will receive, across the country, and this includes California, New York, and some of those metro areas, it's about a little less than $50,000. But if you factor in federal, for a single person, if you factor in income tax, right, federal and state, as well as FICA, right, then the salary, the net, but when you get your paycheck, it's like $3,600 or $36,000. Like,
right.
You're not at 50, right? The first part is carved out for
taxes. And a lot of that depends on your healthcare plan, and that's not even talking about your student.
No, this doesn't even include healthcare.
Yeah,
this doesn't include healthcare. This doesn't include your student loan payments. Doesn't include rent. Doesn't include anything.
So really, you're down probably into the low 20s when it's all said and done.
So and that's where we talked about on our last show about Social Security, and Social Security is just a train wreck.
Yeah.
But there's also, and I'll talk about this in just a second, there's some new things that are happening, some adjustments to Social Security starting January. And
really?
I wasn't aware of it. That's one of the things I learned there. It's just the games that are being pulled by by the powers that be, right? To kind of keep a system alive, keep the way things are alive. And it's just like it's mind-boggling, and it just proves to me we have to keep talking about this stuff. Some people are probably like, "Oh, you're talking about Social Security again. You're talking about, student loan issues." And it's like, yeah, but these are the issues that could wreck everything.
Yeah, because these are two demographic issues. What we're talking about here today. The first being, college tuition going up and up and up and up and up, which we were talking about, and the student loan bubble. That could crash our economy. That alone, right there, I don't think people understand that. So we have Social Security could crash our economy. Student loan bubble could crash our economy, and then you have the next one, which is the baby boomer issue, which could also crash our economy. So you're looking at this swirling thing, which is like the perfect storm. It's all could it all hit at once? Or are you just kind of sitting back going, which one is it going to be?
I mean, I think it's one of those. I think last time we talked about it, it's a house of cards. We have these cards like piling on top of one another. And it's just a slight breeze that knocks one of them over, and the rest could come. But I don't know. I mean, there's so many ways in which it could happen. So many ways in which it can, actually, transpire, and one after the other, kind of the domino effect. Who knows? It's just right now. It's just there's so much that just doesn't make any sense. That I believe that it's gonna be one, then another, and there's a few things, but I would say for the purposes of this show, I would say let's talk about opportunities, right? Because I look at all of this and it's like, wow, it's nuts, but at the same time, life's going to go on. And you can either be part of the downfall, or you can be part of the opportunity that will exist then.
Well, and you know what I could see happening, honestly? The thing that human beings seem to do better than anything else is adapt. Yeah. They just adapt, and they evolve, and they change. And I see a little bit of a change happening right now with YouTube and with Discovery Network and with all these different places for you to get education. I think it's only going to be a matter of time before generations age and people die off, and people start maybe questioning this, like we're questioning now, saying, hey, look, what exactly am I paying for again? Why am I paying for you to have this? Is it necessary? And I think that shift is starting to happen now. I'm bringing more and more people into the business here and into my other operations, as are you, where they're saying, look, college is just not, I would much rather go to a specialized school, or I would much rather get the exact training I need for the job that I want, and then I'm out.
And I think that's where it starts, and that's what I'll use as kind of like the opportunity side of this, where it comes down to what you want to do, what you're good at, what your talents are. And I talk about that all the time, but I had a call this morning which kind of inspired this. But this is a couple that I've worked with for a number of years. Okay. And they were, decent.
Long-time client of yours.
Yeah, they're decent. They were decently successful then, but they're like killing it now. And what they do, and this is very similar to what you do, not here, but outside of here, is this. I won't mention any names, but she is a vocal artist, not singing, but for ads and voiceovers.
So voiceover.
And she has multiple accents that she does, and she applies for probably 50 to 75 gigs per week. Right, and what they do is she has a whole.
Who's her agent?
Yeah,
I need to call.
So she in her basement, right? She has a recording studio, right? And they built this like tricked out recording studio, but it's just a vocal booth, right? It's a vocal booth where they have really high quality, and they just submit to there's a whole platform that exists where they can submit their voiceover to this, that, and the other, and they kill it. They kill it. I mean, that's an industry where for them it's like high six figures. You don't need a college degree to do that. No. Everything that you can learn about recording, available online. Everything you can learn about submitting here, submitting there, all online. Okay, it's one of those like you're not going to learn how to do that at a university.
Oh no.
And as far as the marketing side of things, right? That is developing so fast. You're not going to go to get a social media degree somewhere or an entrepreneur degree somewhere, and suddenly you're going to know how to do all that. And my argument is that if you do learn that, it's going so fast. Anything in like the digital space, it's going to be totally what you learn is going to be totally obsolete.
Well, I have a really quick story. It's kind of on the heels here of this. I went to college for, I was a scholarship dramatic arts, full ride dramatic arts student, and decided to switch my major. I was thinking, I've made a mistake here. I let go of my scholarship, switched to political science, and was doing a couple other things, and then went, I need to go into radio. That's what I need to do, is go into radio. And I went to a broadcasting school. I was in that school for 18 months and was in and out and working and was teaching classes to students at Brigham Young University that were seniors that had been doing this for 4 years.
It's crazy.
I'd been on the job for 6 weeks by the time I was doing this. And all I could think of is, you guys are asses for paying this much money. I have no idea how much you guys are paying.
And they don't even pay that much money. This is like, you go.
Oh, and this is back. Yeah, exactly.
But you
think about like a school back east. Holy cow!
Oh my God! So my thing is, if you really look at the opportunity, is if you identify what's special. I mean, you could do this whether you're a grad. Or you're not going into college yet, or you're a parent of someone that's not going in. Discover what they love to do, and I guarantee there are so many opportunities where they can discover a business that they can create right now to figure out a way to provide value to somebody else, regardless of what it is. I mean, I have there's a guy in a networking group that I belong to, and he's a very successful accountant, and he works with big groups that essentially work with big companies that are coming into a municipality. They're going to create all sorts of jobs, and he helps them get tax credits and stuff like that. But anyway, his son works for he's a gamer, and he works for this amazing company. So he works on the side, kind of doing some programming and development. And then he works for this amazing company that they just package these boxes to give to millennials, right? And it has boxes of or I think it goes to colleges or something like that. But there's these boxes that has a book in there, it has some tech in there, and it's a subscription model.
So
and it's just one of those things,
these Loot Crate kind of things, or like Bombfell, or some of these.
Yes, and I have no idea what those are, but it sounds like it probably could be one of them.
Oh no! What's the one that you do that comes with the clothes?
The Trunk Club. The Trunk Club.
Trunk Club. Okay, that's what Bombfell is. It's the same.
You have Dollar Shave Club. You have
right.
So it's one of these things. How do you learn to do that? Right. It's one of those the ideas that come out of just groups, whether it's at an impact hub like we have here in Salt Lake, which is just it's an open kind of tech office where people go in and rent out an office and then they collaborate with other guys. I mean, there's the evolving workspace is creating so many of these ideas, and I think college. So while it's
scary that the entrepreneurial spirit can only flourish in an environment like this.
Yeah,
right?
and I would say there are a lot of instances in school where those entrepreneurial things happen. They're not in the classroom. I would say the majority of them happen in different buildings or in different whether it's a dorm. I mean, look at Facebook. It happened at a college, right? Not because of the college, right, but because of the environment. Those environments exist everywhere. If you go into any WeWork space, right, or an impact hub here, or any type of collaborative space, you're going to have so many opportunities because of that association. Right. So looking at college and looking at, you don't necessarily have to have that.
It's the Palo Alto Apple Garage. Yeah. I think about that all the time.
So I would say it's one of those, the opportunities that come from, what's going on there, I would say are profound, because you can be educated at a level online that's way more beneficial than, in a college. So if you're a parent, think about it. I mean, I'm not saying that don't go to college, but really sit down and think about, wow, what is the cost of me doing this? More the opportunity cost, but the cost of the child, the cost of the kid that's going in, because the opportunities they're going to miss by going there could be
I'm
huge.
going to get a little heady on you, and forgive me. I don't see too many. Tony Robbins, I see do this. There are very few people that I actually see do this. You do this, which is, hey, look, don't grow up and say, you are going to go from point A to point B to point C and end up working for the man, trying to get, little incremental jumps in pay and so on and so forth. Go out, forge your own path, build your own culture, be smart, and do whatever, have a good, solid quality of life and be happy.
Yep. And I think there's a lot, with the group that we have in our office, there's a lot. I mean, you have separate businesses.
Oh yeah.
I know Lieb, that is heavily involved with what we do, is listening right now. I mean, he's started a podcast. Kenny is started. Guys
they all work on. We all work together on a very popular podcast.
Yeah. So it's one of those, right? There's opportunities to take what you know and do certain things, outside of the office, and have second businesses, and I would say, that's the case with most businesses these days, right? Okay, so not to deviate really abruptly, but I would say there's a very similar issue going into older individuals with that demographic, right? The demographic that's going into those college years, huge problems. I mean, debt, incomes, the impact it's going to have on those paying for it, the defaults that would ensue, and how that could be one of those winds that blows the first card in the house of cards.
Oh yeah,
that
you're shackled for years,
so
if not a decade.
And I would say, again, going into what's happening on the other end of the spectrum, which are those that are in their latter years of life.
Yeah.
And, what we talked about last time, which is programs created during a period of time where life expectancies were less than the beginning of a retirement age, to the point where retirement age is 20, 25, 30 years out. So what I mean by that is you go back to when Social Security was created during the Great Depression, and the average life expectancies there were in the low 60s. Now they're in.
Were they that high? I thought they were lower than that.
No, they were about
it was mid-50s.
No, it was about early 60s. Yep.
Okay.
But then that age has not changed. Okay. But yet the benefits associated with Social Security are now going to everybody, right? And it's a massive issue. But the bigger issue is
when you say that those age ranges haven't changed, you're talking in terms of payment. You're not talking in life expectancy, right?
Yeah, payment, like the beginning
right,
of
because people are living
payments.
well into their 80s now because of healthcare and medical advancements and things like that.
And Social Security, I mean, if you look at really the studies, it's only meant to cover 30 to 40% of a person's retirement, right? Everything else is supposed to be covered by their own savings. But if you look at longevity and look at when people are supposed to retire, like right now, I was doing some research. The average balance of retirement savings for a baby boomer, which I actually thought was pretty high, was $160,000. But if you translate that into income,
that seems
over
high.
the course of 25 years, okay, it's about $500 a month. That's it.
Yeah, you're not living on $500.
And that's not even with inflation.
Yeah.
So because you have to stretch it out plus interest over the course of 25, 30 years potentially. So that's the biggest issue. Also, the studies are the average couple, right, that's in those years, those latter years, they're going to have a cost of about almost $400,000 for healthcare over the course of that 20 to 30 years. Right now, that seems like a lot. And it is if it were like 5 years.
Seems crazy.
But you're stretching that out over the course of time. That is why healthcare is going to go bankrupt, or they're going to have to redo something there.
Yeah.
That's why Social Security right now is making all sorts of, there's a change that's coming in January, which affects the income brackets that are going to, essentially determine how much taxes on Social Security. But if you look at, Medicare and then Medicaid and all those, major issues that are supposedly going to solve that problem. So anyway, my point there is, you have an issue with that demographic, but here's the bigger issue, is I wouldn't even say it's their problem, because when that problem starts to occur, who's going to pay for it, right? Now you might say, the government is going to pay for it. I don't know. I don't think so. I think the government's going to put it on.
Well, that's easy to say now, but there's all those variables and unknowns that we just can't.
Yeah, and the one right now, if you look at, and we've talked about this in previous podcasts, there are certain laws which are called filial laws that
filial laws.
Yeah, I have no idea what the pronunciation is, or even where the root of that word is, but it's filial or filial, FILIAL laws. Which basically,
we'll try and put something in the show notes where people can go look.
Yeah, we have a bunch of links here.
Yeah.
So those laws will put children of their parents legally on the hook to take care of them.
Wow.
Yeah, and so
that's like China. Yes. China does that.
So there's two, again, going to opportunity cost, and then you put like the time value of money. You put the compounding nature of an opportunity cost. When parents are sending their kids to college and spending $100,000, $150,000, $200,000. There's a massive opportunity cost, which does have a consequence down the road, and that consequence is they are not going to have enough money to take care of themselves, and this is what's going to happen. The kids at that point are now going to have disruption to their life, their careers, their children,
and it continues
to take care of their parents. And so the obvious opportunity, right, is how do you fix this? And like I said, I think there's going to be massive disruption because the narrative associated with monetary policy, fiscal policy is that growth is the objective. And right now, that is the last thing that we need, right?
Well, that's how our financial and economic system is set up. It's all based on growth.
Yeah, and that's what I would say. you look at the nature of technology, innovation, it's supposed to make things cheaper, make things more efficient, require less. And so you have this contradiction associated with the solutions that entrepreneurs and people are coming up with, as well as the narrative associated with government. And that's where it's going to come to a head at some point.
No, not for me, dude, because I'm going to get a coffee can and I'm going to start putting all my singles. I'm putting everything in a coffee can.
Singles.
I'm going to bury them out in the backyard. Boom. I've solved all of the world's economic problems. Coffee cans and backyards right there, right?
Well, there is actually
what do you think?
There is a solution that involves the backyard.
Really?
Yeah. Maybe we won't get into that solution right now.
Is that serious, or is that like a joke? My brain is racing right now, Pat.
All right, we talked about this before, but yeah, I mean, you could always build like a second house in your backyard and house your grandparents there.
We have talked about it. No, that's right.
Yeah, the granny pod.
Yeah, because they do. Speaking of China, they do that there.
Yeah, I know.
Where they will they'll add on extra rooms, or they'll that they plan on just where their elderly folks are going to live.
Yeah, for sure. So I would say the solutions is it's preparations right now, and this is where instead of waiting until that time, until you call it quits, it's planning. And I would say right now we're a very distracted nation. I include myself in that. Right, there's so many distractions, but it's the focus really on where the priorities are associated with your present well-being as well as future well-being. And right now, I would say everything is moving so quickly that you can't use these solutions, the rhetorical solutions of the past, to solve future problems. I would question everything, and that's where
everything.
Yeah, and I would
maybe
say
that should be the title of the show.
And these are the two ominous problems that I see. I mean, government. If you look at government debt, you look at all the other debt that's associated with our with individuals, with corporations, with the government. I mean, it's insane, but a lot of it boils down to these two issues, which are the two main demographics.
You think these are the two biggest problems?
Yeah, well, I wouldn't say they're the biggest problems, but they're the two the two kind of demographics that are going to be affected the most.
Okay.
Right, are being affected the most.
I think it's already happening.
Because if you look at where the aging group is, they're there based on all of the narrative of the past, which I would say at this point is obsolete. Right. Everything they thought was going to happen, it didn't, and it's not going to.
Right.
But yet all of their planning, everything that they've done, is create the issues that exist today. So that's where I would say stepping back, I would looking at solutions. Right. The solutions is if you are one of those that are approaching retirement or in retirement, okay, it's really sitting down and saying, okay, what do we have going on, right? What are we doing? And are we prepared for the future? If not, what are we going to do? Okay. But also, I would say it's starting a conversation with your kids, because your kids need to know that. They need to know what's going on. They need to know right now, as opposed to at the last minute.
Oh yeah, no, right? I told my kid, I said, look, this is my retirement planning. When I'm in diapers and I'm no longer able to just really comprehend what's going on, I want you to put a bucket of chicken around my neck, like a KFC, like a 20-piece chicken, like a bucket of chicken around my neck, drive me up to the Uintas, and just kick me out of the car. There you go, Dad. See you later.
Why don't you just
I don't want to be that. I don't want to be.
Why don't you go rent a Ferrari on the Autobahn or something like that?
Yeah, hey, that's a better way of doing it.
Just kidding.
Will I know how to work the gas pedal though? That's the question.
Well, they have like those little shifters.
Oh, paddle shifters now. That's
shifters. Yeah,
I got this.
But I would say that obviously I'm sure that was obviously that was all humorous, right? That wasn't.
What do you mean? No, of course, I'm joking. I'm joking. Yeah,
no,
of course.
But I look at really that future, and it doesn't have to be. It shouldn't be negative. It should be negative if you don't want to change. Okay, it should be positive if you're willing to change. And I would say that really starts with planning, and it includes your entire.
Now, because I'm with you. I don't think this is going to be a gradual change, and I don't think it's going to be easy. I think something very, very disruptive and very scary is going to happen in order to make all this work.
Yeah, so I would say that's the first thing. The second thing is also, if you look at kids, and I've done this with my parents, in conjunction with my brother, is knowing what's going on with them, right? Mm-hmm. Knowing where their resources are, how they are planning, what their future plans are,
right?
Because in just a short period of time, the health situation can drastically change with older individuals, going from a period of a lot of clarity and understanding to dementia and to the forgetfulness, right? A lot of the issues that happen at that stage. So I would say,
dude, a bucket of chicken, it's like $6, I think.
No, Chunga. No, but I would say it's really it comes down to, okay, here's the situation, it's real, we're a part of it.
Yeah.
Okay. If we base our future plans on what we've thought about, the past, and obviously the results that we thought are clearly not what they are, then what do we do? What's the plan? What are the strategies? And there's a lot of opportunities. And I would say one is obviously the discussion associated with it. And there's also, lots of tools that are out there that, can help you navigate Social Security. There are, tools out there that will help position assets as far as, care is concerned. But I would say the other thing too is, there are a lot of business opportunities and investment opportunities.
Sure.
Whether it's, assisted care facilities and, different investment, syndications that fund those, or real estate investment trusts, or that's a possibility.
Well, and you know what I think happens with people? I think
Pampers and Depends.
See, now you're talking my language.
Well, dude, there's more adult diapers that are being sold now than kid diapers. You know that?
Get out of here.
No,
really?
Yeah.
The stuff man. You once said I was the world's most interesting man. No, that's definitely you. I don't know where you find this stuff.
Yeah.
He's like a shark, Patrick Donohoe. He's on a constant search for this kind of stuff. He never stops. It's amazing. But this is the question I was going to ask you, though, because one of the things that when I talk to people and I'm out doing stuff and they say, what are you doing now? I'm working in wealth management and finance and working with Patrick Donohoe, and they say, oh, I should have started that years ago. I'm way too old now. Yep. I can't. Is there an age where you're too old to stop, or too old to start doing this and start planning or start setting something up?
Well, you have to start you have to plan and start setting things up, because the more you wait, the bigger the opportunity.
The worse it gets.
Yeah, the bigger opportunity, because there's going to be
somebody
kind of
in
a
their
reckoning.
60s, you can still figure something out, right?
I would say you can help people come to a realistic, picture of what is going on and what's going to happen in the future, right? And come up with a strategy, come up with a scenario that could work, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, at any age, you should always be doing that. And I would say even those that are, at a point where they're in their career, they're paying off debts, and they have parents, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the parents, are in those situations or will be in those situations.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it could, it does hurt families. It does. I mean, this was part of this conference I went to, but there was a guy talking, and there's a guy I know really well, and he became really emotional because he was, sharing with me that, he didn't talk to his brother for like 6 or 7 years just because of disagreement that they had associated with like what their mom was going to do, whether she was going to stay at home or go to a facility, or I don't know.
Kidding.
Yeah, so it's one of those things where it's very disruptive to the family if plans are not made in advance, because when you start to make decisions like that, like in the heat of the moment,
mm-hmm.
nothing really ever comes, nothing good comes from making a decision there, especially when it involves multiple members of the family. So
anyway. Yeah, because you'll never agree.
Yeah,
it's human nature. You'll never agree on anything.
So again, it's going to bring up opportunities. It's going to really force your brain to engage in the situation and figure things out.
Yeah.
And doing it now versus in the future is always the best time to plan. So I think it doesn't matter the age. You should always be doing it. And here's the thing: it's like 5 years from now, it's going to be different. 5 years after that, it's going to be different. That's why
that's a good point.
Continuous dialogue, communication,
and adjustment,
discussion. Yeah, is necessary. And I would say a big thing is to, have family councils, have family meetings, communicate. When you do, sit down with your parents or you sit down with your children, I think transparency needs to be more prevalent now than ever before, because knowing now, even if the situation isn't that great, it's going to be better than the compounding nature of the situation right now and what it could become in the future.
Yeah. Scary?
No, I mean, I would say it's just real. It's realistic, and it's communication. It's making preparations. But there's a lot of opportunities. There's lots of solutions.
Yeah.
I would just say what has been expected in the past, if that's the way in which you've set your life up, then that's definitely a red flag to sit down and reassess and just come to a realistic picture of where you're at, what you're doing.
Do it today.
Yeah.
Do it today. Don't wait. Listen to this a couple of times. Play this episode for
we have
members.
we have a bunch of links on here as well, so we can reference a few things.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yay!
Welcome back,
Granny
man.
Pod. Invest in Granny Pods.
Granny Pods.
Yeah. Do you know what a Granny Pod is?
No, I've never heard of a Granny Pod.
Yeah,
before.
Granny Pod is like those little tiny homes, but you have a little tiny home for your.
They call it a Granny Pod?
Yeah. They're big in the UK, I know. There's
Wow.
also I want to get them on because I wanted to talk about Brexit, but there's a couple that I know that are from Wales. But Paula, she created this really cool real estate type of investment idea where she will go into these multi-bedroom homes, and it's a similar situation in the UK as far as the demographic is concerned. But there's lots of young professionals, and they can't afford to necessarily live by themselves or live in an apartment.
Especially in London, the most expensive city in the world.
For sure. So what she does, she goes in and buys homes, and she retrofits them to be able to accommodate 6, 7, 10 professionals. Now that's not co-ed. I mean, she kind of splits that up.
So it's kind of like the old school boarding house mentality, but
it is. But it's for young
nicer.
professionals, and she has there's the cleaning, the cooking, a lot of that stuff is done for them so they can focus on their career. So again, it's like one of those, though, that may not be relevant.
Millennials are doing that anyway. They just don't realize they're not doing it in an organized fashion.
Yeah.
A bunch of kids are crashing in an apartment somewhere. And
for sure.
Yeah.
And then you add services to it that makes it very convenient, and she's able to, charge a lot of rent for that and charge, anyway, it makes sense for her, but it solves a problem there. Now, is that a problem here? Maybe not. It depends on the economics.
I would think in some places, San Francisco and New York, some places.
Yeah,
like
so it depends on the economics, but I would say in the end, it's one of the principle is there is always a solution, right? And if you don't identify the problem and recognize it as a problem, you're never going to come up with a solution.
Sure.
So that's where it's sit down, have a dialogue, brainstorm, collaborate, use your noodle.
There it is.
Life will be amazing.
All right. Well, thanks, man. Thanks for that.
Hey, no problem.
Leave us a review, will you?
Yes.
Go to iTunes, leave us a
favor.
review. And check thewealthstandard.com. We have a brand new show that's going to be coming online very soon, the Cash Flow Podcast.
Oh, yeah. That's
We're
right.
about to get that going. We're getting, I can't promote this enough. We're about to get this going. We have this very popular thing that we do, the Cash Flow Wealth Summit, and we do it a couple of different times a year. And we have all kinds of real top tier, these guys are amazing presenters, and we're going to take those presentations from the past couple of years. We're going to put them on this podcast so that people can learn lots.
So you can binge listen.
Absolutely, yeah. And that'll be starting very soon.
Cool.
So
I'm
keep
excited.
checking back, will you?
Oh, do we have a date on that?
No, we don't, Pat. Thank you for asking. No, just know it's gonna come online. We are building the website for it right now.
Very cool.
So.
All right, everyone. Thanks for listening to this episode, and we will talk to you next time.
You've been listening to the Wealth Standard Podcast, the gold standard in all things financial.